Welcome to Monday through Friday, Cellular Agriculture for a Pandemic-Free Future. My name is George Ortega. This is episode number 17, I believe. Just check for sure. No, episode 18, okay. And it is Thursday, July 30th at 9:37 p.m. Eastern Time. And I just want to briefly begin by mentioning that I just finished a book by a woman named Deborah McKenzie, who's a health science reporter who's been covering pandemics, epidemics, contagious diseases for about 30 years. And it's a good book. You know, one thing that's good about it is she goes toward the end to describing, you know, what has to happen. In other words, like the point she makes is that this has to be a global effort, not just to contain the coronavirus right now, but to prevent future ones. You know, it's like with climate change, for example, let's say we did everything that we needed to do, but China didn't. That wouldn't be enough. Or if China did everything they could and we didn't, that wouldn't be enough. Same with Europe and you know, other parts of the world. So with this, yeah, it's like we will need to ensure that that the world is working together. You know, as if like an alien, you know, an alien force came down from outer space to invade us, and we'd have to, like, you know, band together as a human species to defend ourselves. I guess, you know, this is kind of like an alien species, this virus, you know, instead of coming from without, it's coming from within. So anyway, so that, you know, but I mentioned that book also to note a glaring omission. And she wouldn't be alone in this. Like, the omission is probably ubiquitous among people who research pandemics, research how to overcome them. Basically, you know, their answer is, well, we need to come up with better vaccines, and we need to, once we get the eventual pandemics, contain them better, you know. And yeah, that's important. But what they all miss is that that's not enough. That's not enough. I mean, in 20 perhaps years, 10 or 20, perhaps longer, I mean, it's a difficult challenge, we may be able to develop a universal vaccine or a series of near universal vaccines that work on any and all strains of virus and bacteria. You know, that's the holy grail of this. But again, we're probably 10 to 20 years away from that. So, and so these science writers should understand that what they should be talking about is that, you know, these pandemics are zoonotic. They mention that, but they don't take the leap of saying, well, the only real way we're going to be safe from these future pandemics is to transition from farming animals, whether it's family farms or industrial farms, to either going vegan, not eating meat, dairy, and eggs at all, or, you know, rely on cellular agriculture, on cultured meat, cell-cultured food products, which is what this series is about. You know, I hold out the hope that we can summon up the conscience, the intelligence, to understand that our best course is to stop eating animals altogether, with or without this new cellular agriculture technology. But you know, playing it more realistically, more safe, you know, we really need to scale up that research. All right, so I'm reading another book, and I just wanted to briefly mention, because it's a good book. It's It's called Deadliest Enemy by Michael T. Osterholm. And this book is, I mean, this guy, like, you know, the woman, Deborah McKenzie, was a reporter. This guy's a doctor. This guy's an epidemiologist, a researcher who's been researching this for 30 years or so. And so, you know, I'll give you some more information as I go through it. Basically, he's making the point that I just made, that, you know, this has to be a global effort, you know, just like with trade. You know, if people in Africa, for example, are too poor and disadvantaged to be able to buy products, you know, cooperate in the global economy, that doesn't serve them or doesn't serve anyone. And he makes the point that, yes, this has to involve the whole world. If some countries are too poor to afford the kinds of institutions, mechanisms, strategies that are necessary to prevent pandemics, including transitioning from meat to either veganism or cellular agriculture, then we in the rich countries are obligated, you know, morally obligated to help them. It's not just a matter of moral obligation. It's a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of understanding, again, that they can infect the entire world just like Asia did, you know, China, and we can start pandemics here. I mean, so all right. So, so with this guy Osterholm, he also has an excellent podcast. You can get it on Spotify. So it's a free podcast. So yeah, and the guy's smart. He's smart and he's courageous. He was actually first involved in AIDS. He was telling people, you know, 20 years before they finally did it, that you needed to test people for AIDS. You know, AIDS, you know, has killed over 20 million people. That's a pandemic. Most people don't talk about it in that way, but, you know, he was involved in that. So was Fauci, by the way. He was, you know, these guys, and since then, you know, they've been warning us over and over and over that these pandemics are a major, major risk. Bill Gates has been warning us. A lot of people have been warning us. And I think finally we're going to begin to listen. All right, so yeah, the main point is that we need to start thinking about overcoming, not just overcoming this pandemic. I mean, we have to do two things at once. We have to do more to overcome this pandemic, and we have to do much, much more, you know, to ensure that we never have another pandemic like this. That's what our collective goal is. And then in terms of containing the current pandemic, you know, you have to understand that, you know, initially the epicenter was in Wuhan in China, okay? But they did what they needed to do, and they did it effectively, and they contained the virus. That's when the epicenter moved to New York, and had Trump, you know, done what he should have done of basically, you know, enacting a war powers authority to ensure that there was enough testing, there were enough masks, there was enough equipment, enough ventilators, enough contact tracing. You know, had he done that when he should have back in March, tens of thousands of people that are now dead would have still been alive. You know, so in terms of containing this pandemic so that we're not living through this for 2, 3, 4 years, which is possible, we need to launch a war on Donald Trump. You know, that essentially, you know, in November, we need to have such overwhelming power in the elections, such an overwhelming victory, that he and people who followed him because they're either cowards or idiots no longer have the power to threaten and kill us, in a lot of ways. And this isn't done again because of Trump's refusal to respect science, because of his unbelievably selfish preoccupation with getting reelected at whatever cost, and the cost has been tens of thousands of lives. This pandemic now is strengthening in the United States, and it may, other countries that had contained it, are now seeing resurgences. So, and a lot of it, you have to believe, is coming from the United States, whereas like this originally came from China. Now it seems that like most global resurgences, infections are coming from the United States. And this is the nature of our air travel, of our business. People are just traveling continent to continent, but again, so that's the battle we need to wage now, and don't conclude that there's not much that you can do. I mean, like, you need to demand the media cover this more and cover the political aspects, just really lean into Trump, just nail him on just like, continuing to refuse to do what's necessary. It's not that he didn't do what was necessary in March. He still refuses to do what's necessary. He's been seen, I think, wearing a mask only twice, and he's made so many misleading, false, deceitful statements about the crisis that he's really the danger. It's kind of like this coronavirus is his weapon in a way. So again, that's what we need to do for now. We're about under 4 months before an election to just get rid of him, in a powerful way. But that's just the beginning, and then we have to wait, naturally a couple more months until Biden, I suppose, is in, and that's when the real work begins. So starting, I suppose, January 20th, 2021, we need to ensure that, fine, Trump didn't talk about, these farmed animals being a major source of future pandemics. Nobody's really talking about it. But we need to make sure that the Biden and his people get this. And it's not like Biden and those other guys are angels. Fine, they're not nearly as horrible as Trump. That's hard. That's really hard. But way too many of them are just like Trump. They're interested in getting reelected, and they don't want to offend the dairy industry and the beef industry, the cattle industry. So they don't want to tell you the truth because of that. You've begun to, if you've looked at the news, you've begun to see articles connecting, pandemics like this to the farming of animals, especially to the factory farming. There's a good number of articles out there, but they haven't been focused on that much by the New York Times or the Washington Post, CNN, NPR, PBS. These are the media outlets that need to push this. Again, they're you may think they're kind of like middle of the road or liberal, but no, they're very corporate. And when it comes to things like this, they don't want to upset this economic order where a lot of people are invested in this livestock industry. The livestock industry, incidentally, is worth about 1.3 trillion, which is about 3 times the value of the cell phone industry. So that's a major, major industry. And again, our politicians, our media are just being cowardly, you know, just like those of you who eat meat and dairy and eggs are in denial, refuse to face the fact that in order for you to eat those products, you know, 70+ billion animals each year have to suffer horrible lives. You know, just like you're refusing to face that, these politicians are refusing to meet their responsibility to learn, to better understand what's necessary to be as safe as possible, realistically, from future pandemics, and then to promote this strategy. Again, I've talked about the $50 billion that we should begin spending January 21st or 22nd. I don't know when the inauguration is, but this isn't something you want to wait a year or two to start spending. You want to spend this money right now. And again, $50 billion may seem like so much to you, but consider this, it's 1/2 of 1%, maybe less actually, of the $8 trillion that were predicted by the Congressional Budget Office to ultimately spend to contain this coronavirus. I mean, it's the height of folly. You know, it couldn't be more stupid for us to not make that investment in our future. So, so that's the main message. We have this way. You know, God has provided us this way, this strategy, this new technology that can allow us to close down the farms, that allow us to just end the farming of animals and still be able to eat hamburgers and turkey and chicken and hot dogs and sausage and whatever we want, and, you know, milk and eggs and dairy. We can do that. But we need to do it as soon as we can. Some people, you know, and the reason we need to do it as soon as we can is because there is a great misconception that these pandemics are rare events. You know, again, the major misstatement was that they are 1 in 100 year events, referencing the 1918 influenza pandemic that killed, now they say, between 50 and 100 million people. But, you know, the problem is that, you know, we've had pandemics. That AIDS was a pandemic in the 80s, and there was a pandemic in 57 and 68. And, you know, in the 2000s, we've had, you know, Ebola and Zika and MARS and SARS, and these pandemics are growing, you know. And I mean, if you want to play Russian roulette with your life, with the life of your kids, life of you know, the civilization, hey, that's, you know, then, you know, you just continue on the path you're on, you know, keep eating the meat and dairy and all, and don't look at this. And yeah, and we'll live in dread. You know, we'll live in dread of the next one, and it doesn't seem like we've been that lucky. So this may seem hyperbolic, but no, it's so prudent, you know. What needs to be done and what can be done is to spend 1/2 of 1% of what we'll be spending to address this pandemic to, within a few short years, create a world safe from pandemics, you know, as safe as possible, which is probably 99+% safe. And naturally, you know, this is going to have to be a major, like a global Manhattan project. You know, every country in the world is going to have to be involved, and that means that, you know, every country in the world is going to have to be cooperating with each other. We're going to have to like lay down our selfish, you know, interests, nationalist interests, and start considering our global population as a whole. And that, you know, that's certainly necessary for climate change. And it might be that this is a blessing in the skies. It may be that climate change is so much more threatening, but, you know, that threat doesn't really kick in all that much until perhaps 2050. So it may be that this is a wake-up call. Maybe this is God's way of motivating us to finally unite in a very constructive world, as a global population, to battle this coronavirus. And as we succeed with that, we'll have the mechanisms, we'll have the communication portals, the strategies, the cooperation that then will allow us to successfully begin to seriously fight climate change. All right, yeah, all right. So like, I seem to be indicting you in a way. And again, like if you heard, I don't know if it was last night's episode or the night before, I went in depth into this question that like, hey, don't blame yourself. This is not your fault. You know, even those of you who eat meat and dairy and eggs, I'm like, you know, you were born into this country where everybody eats meat and dairy and eggs, and nobody's saying how evil it is. And people like, you know, they learn about the factory farms, but nobody talks about it. The media doesn't talk about it. The politicians don't talk about it. So you kind of assume, well, they must, you know, they're our experts. They must know. You know, it may seem evil. It may seem really cruel, but, you know, if it really was, then these people would be talking about it, you know. And naturally, the answer to that is that, well, no, these people that should be talking about it are evil. And again, it's not like it's their fault either. They're born into the same like competitive world where it's more important to achieve personal success, you know, than to do the right thing. It's more important to go with the flow, to just, you know, to not rock the boat. But no, it's important for you to understand that it's really not your fault, because to the extent you believe it's your fault, you're going to blame yourself, and that indictment's going to be too much for you to handle. You're going to run away from it. You know, you're going to hide from it. You're going to be in denial of it, just like so many people are in denial of climate change. And you'll be inactive. You won't do anything. You know, you won't stop eating the animals. You won't acknowledge and understand how important it is for you to stop eating those animals, stop buying these products from people who are literally torturing, in many cases, these animals, and who are just maintaining, perpetuating the conditions that lead to pandemics, that will inevitably lead to future pandemics, until we develop these new food products, if we don't want to go vegan, or until we develop a vaccine, which again may be 10 or 20 years out. And again, it doesn't seem like we're that lucky. I mean, we may be that lucky, but it feels like playing Russian roulette to think that, oh yeah, we'll rely on just, it probably won't happen, you know? It just, it probably, you know, it's too dire to happen. No, I think this virus is just informing us that, you know, bad things have happened before. You know, World War II was really bad. The Civil War was really bad. World War I. We've had famines. I mean, Africa has been devastated, you know, in so many ways. There's a lot of suffering that many of us have been shielded from. And from a theological perspective, it seems that, you know, we've been spoiled. You know, we've lived such privileged, comfortable lives that we've lost both our sense of responsibility and compassion. You know, we're too busy trying to succeed at whatever we're trying to succeed with for a personal gain, for the gain of our family. Yeah, we love our wife and kids or our family, whatever, but that love doesn't extend to even you know, those of us within our country. We're too busy working for a personal gain to responsibly, effectively address situations like this. All right, so the message today is think about this. You know, if it's too early for you to really think about what we need to do to prevent future pandemics, keep watching, keep learning, and perhaps in a few months, half a year, who knows, then perhaps you and the rest of the country and the world will be ready to take the next step of taking these actions. All right, well, it is, we have about 1 minute and 20 seconds left. So catch this series every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on White Plains Community Media, channel 76 if you get Optimum, channel 45 if you get Verizon. And the episodes are all on YouTube. You know, share them however you want. And again, I'm going to continue with the same message over and over. I'll say it in 1,000 ways if I need to, you know, because I think you'll get it. I think eventually, you know, if I say it enough, you know, you and other people will get it and we'll start doing the right thing. So look for a book on pandemics. Look for a book on viruses, on influenza, on what these things are about, or just Google it. There are articles on, you know, learn about it, learn how they get created, how they get started, and then you'll understand the reason for this series and to end animal farming. Okay, thanks for watching.